thank you very much, my brother, for having this conversation with me.
I appreciate you. Thank you for inviting me.
Appreciate you. Your career has spanned a significant amount of time and dimension.
Yeah.
And you've worked grassroots, you've worked local organizing, you've worked philanthropy,
Yeah.
change agent in various styles. All right. What was it about the citizen service that felt to you like this is a good fit for the next step?
Yeah. So I think for me, when you look at the course of my career and the things that I've been passionate about, one of the things that, whether it's in philanthropy, whether it's been in civic technology, whether it's been in nonprofits, one thing that always comes across clearly is that people want solutions to the problems that affect their everyday lives. People want to know when they walk outside their homes every day that the trash is going to be picked up, that their sidewalks are clean, that they feel a sense of safety. And so to that end, everything that I've been doing in my career has been about this sense of getting to transformative solutions for people. And the other thing that I've realized, quite frankly, is the greatest solutions often don't come top down. They come bottom up. And so what attracted me to the citizen service and what we're doing with no blame problem solving is really this idea that we're giving power back to everyday people to make change in the communities that they live in. We believe that people, not institutions always, but people are the best solution makers.
I do want to talk a little bit about no blame problem solving, but first, can you break down for me the citizen service? How did this organization start out? What was the problem that they were trying to solve at the time? And how does that original mission line up with the current state of affairs in the world and in the country?
So the citizen service was founded as the Citizens Campaign in 1997 by Harry Pazecki, who has done all sorts of things, but he's worked in government and politics. He's also worked in real estate. And this is a person who has done a lot of work on land use laws and affordable housing in New Jersey. And from his years of working in government, what he realized is that there were massive amounts of people who weren't participating in civic life. And he was talking about this 30 years ago in 1997. And so he decided to do something about it. And so he created the Citizens Campaign with this idea that we were going to work with everyday people, with neighbors, community members, to come up with real solutions that are not based in partisanship, that are not based in finger pointing, but that are based in what is the best outcome from this community. And so he put together something called the Law and Policy Task Force, where he brought together some colleagues and some experts to say, what are real solutions to everyday problems that are revenue neutral, that aren't about finger pointing, but really get to the heart of the issue. And then he worked with neighbors and community members and combined those two forces together. And it really has been a powerful journey ever since.
So, it sounds like he was a great example of, be the change you want to see. Be proactive. If it doesn't exist, figure out how to create it with others. But make it exist.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Got you. So let's talk about the no blame problem solving. I know this is like a core concept for the organization. What does that mean? How is it expressed?
So I think, and I'll start on a personal level and then take this to where we're going with no blame problem solving. I think part of the problem that we see in the world today, particularly in the country, is there are so many people who are disengaged from civic life. And that's because we have synonymized civic life and partisanship, right? You have to be a Democrat, you have to be a Republican, you have to be this, you have to be that to make a change. And what we do at the Citizen Service is a couple of things. We have these things called civic trust. Newark is one of our longest and strongest civic trusts that brings together folks intergenerationally, so young people, folks who skew older,
Yeah.
across income levels.
Yeah.
And we meet right here at Rutgers, Newark, and folks come together and say, what's a problem that needs a solution? And folks work backwards from it. Key to our civic trust, and also we're doing this in colleges around the country, is our no blame problem solving training. So we have an online course where folks can come and take a training in no blame problem solving. And what no blame problem solving is exactly what it sounds like.
Okay.
It's about teaching folks. It's a 10-step training that teaches folks, this is how you create change in your community. And so it goes from everything about how to recognize your own power as a resident to how to engage elected officials, how to bring community members together, how to come up with, revenue neutral solutions, things that don't cost much, because we know that can be a deterrent to getting something through, whether it's in City Hall or Congress. And so it really takes everyday people through this journey, and it says, listen, you don't need to be an elected official to make change in your community. Here are 10 steps about how you can recognize your own power, how you can engage with your neighbors, and how you can take an idea and get it across the finish line to impact the lives of you and your neighbors.
Yeah. You've, inherited, you could say, this organization, this 30-year-old, approximately 30-year-old organization. And large part of your work is expanding it, right?
Yeah.
So what do you see as your wish list or your goal list of what does this look like in 5 years under Rashawn's leadership?
Well, I think for me, again, what I've realized, particularly in the past 5 years of my career, is that we are at a crisis point in this country. We are at a crisis point in terms of people who feel a great sense of apathy, people who feel a great sense of displacement from civic life, from democracy. And I think what is sort of ironic about that is when I ask people about politics or democracy, they tell me, it's not something I'm interested in. But when I ask people about better schools or safer communities or jobs, people have a whole lot to say. And so there's a disconnect there in the sense that people want to be involved in creating solutions, but they don't know where the entry point is. And so I think fundamentally what we do is lower barriers of entry to civic life. We say, you don't have to run for office, you don't have to be an elected official, you don't have to be a part of a party system or some committee, that you can join a trust, you can come together with neighbors, and you can affect challenges in your communities. And for me, principally, the idea is, how do we replicate this across the country? In Newark, it's been successful. We've had our Newark Civic Trust. We just finished our first pilot of the Wilhelmina Holder, and I know you know Wilhelmina Holder. Youth fellows. We had 12 youth fellows from across the city who went through this training, came up with solutions. They're now engaging the city council, they're engaging the mayor's office on something called the Newark Youth Commission. So it's been really exciting to see the progress that's happened here in Newark. Years ago, at the beginning of the Newark Civic Trust, trustees were able to engage the school board, and so this training actually exists in some high schools across the city. Students get this at homework. So what we like to say is Newark is the first civic city, right? It's one of the first cities in the country that is really intentionally set out to build a civic ecosystem, and we're glad to be a part of that. And I think the lesson for us is, how do we take what's happening in Newark and replicate it across the country? Because again, there are cities and towns across this nation where people want to be involved in creating solutions. They don't always know what the right entry point is.
Right. It's interesting that you being born and raised in Newark and having such a personal relationship with Newark and its history in this particular context of citizenry, right? And, you know, I was listening to you talk about, you know, how apathy sets in. You know, Newark is a perfect example, among other cities, that apathy doesn't stay apathy over time. It becomes resistance, it becomes rebellion, it becomes rage, right? And the work that's being done to essentially nip it in the bud at apathy is also like preventive of what is inevitable if apathy is sustained. And whether it's on a, you know, national scale of what's happening in this country, geopolitically, internationally, or locally, we're talking about real people with real lives 100%. And real, you know, 100%. Needs and pressures, and it's not academic. You know what I mean? It's not, you know, at 30,000 feet up. You know, this is real on the ground. People and experiences and work. So I want to hear from you, like, you know, growing up in Newark, what has Newark taught you about this work in terms of creating engaged citizens, or the power of engaged citizens? And then, like, what lessons does, you talked about Newark already being the first civic city. But what other lessons can you recall that you've experienced of, like, oh, this happened in Newark and this could happen, this could work nationwide?
So I think, and it's funny because I've told this story a couple times. I won't name the institution, but I've been at these lofty, fancy institutions over the past couple years, and I get invited to either, you know, a sort of a round table or some kind of thinking session about what's happening in America. Why aren't people engaged? Why aren't people involved? And I think one of the things that Newark has taught me that I carry into these rooms is that our definition of civic engagement is so limited. And what I mean by that is oftentimes we look to voting turnout, rightfully so, right? You know, voting turnout is low in lots of places. It could be better here in Newark. But that doesn't tell the whole story. Ever since I was young, since I was a kid, I can remember Newark being a robust civic city. Newark has always been a place where its residents care about its history, its future, its culture, its challenges. I've been all across the country, and this is one of the few places where I have seen that so concretely. So if you're looking to certain stats alone, it won't give you the full picture of what civic life is. And so for me, what that means in the context of Newark is anybody who comes to our Newark Civic Trust, you're invited to come. We do it right here at Rutgers Newark, the Innovation Hub at the Honors College. Anybody who comes to our intergenerational Newark Civic Trust can see that this is a city that cares deeply about its civic life, about its trajectory, and people, whether you're from the South Ward in Dayton, whether you're from Ivy Hill in the West Ward, whether you're from Weequahic in the South Ward, whether you're from downtown and Central Ward, you have people who care deeply about where this city is going, and they want their voice to be a part of that trajectory. And so what Newark has taught me is that if we are to get people reinvigorated in our democracy, we got to get more folks out to vote, and we got to get more folks out to vote more often. But that's only a part of the story. We really have to invest in civic life, in things like a civic trust, things like creating civic cities like what Newark has are an essential part of doing that. Now, what has Newark taught us that I think is interesting for the rest of the country is a civic city, in my eyes, is this self-perpetuating cycle. And I think what makes that especially important in Newark is, again, we have our Newark Civic Trust where sort of every cohort, we got a new group of folks who are coming in, who are identifying issues and kind of working backwards from the solution. We have Rutgers Newark, SPA school at Rutgers Newark that is teaching our training, that has these resources available. The PSENG Foundation has been a great supporter and partner of our work. And so we've partnered with other organizations. We're doing trainings with programs for parents, which supports grandparents and parents. And so this is how you create civic cities where you have institutions, government, community, all working together towards solutions. And I think at scale, it can be a really powerful thing. Now, the Newark Civic Trust has been around 10 years, which for some folks seems like a long time, but in the grand scheme of civic life is actually quite a short time.
Right.
So I think what we are excited to do is not only double down our commitment in Newark and see as we continue to grow and expand and iterate and perfect this civic city model, what that will mean for the city moving forward. But also, we know that there is something special about this sort of self-perpetuating cycle of institutions, communities, and government working together. And that's the thing that we want to take on the road.
Yeah. It's funny, you talked about how much people care about Newark. I saw a meme recently that said, love yourself the way people from Newark love Newark.
That's it.
It's just like, and it's, it's a great time to be in Newark, compared to a lot of other times. But I want to kind of focus in on your last point, because if I'm Tehsuan Glover, Newark resident, individual person, what's something that I could do to be more civically engaged that isn't, at the polls or, not the civic trust? Like, what are some other things that I could do as an individual that are measurable and accessible to me?
Yeah. Well, I think the measurable part is the interesting thing, because I think there are lots of things you could do that aren't measurable, but are impactful. I think first things first is being mindful of what's going on around your community. I think that is, in a lot of ways, step one. Step two is, I know you said the civic trust is sort of out there, but the civic trust is such a low barrier. I do think it's a place where people can go and sort of start their journey in civic life.
Yeah. And how often does it meet?
Once a month.
Once a month, okay.
Yeah.
As much as no blame problem solving is the approach, there are barriers. Even if we're not interested in pointing blame, there does exist barriers that people do encounter when they do try. Right? Like every door isn't open for every attempt, right?
100%.
Can you talk a little bit about some barriers that objectively exist?
I mean, so in our training, we sort of cover, obviously it's impossible to know all the barriers someone will encounter. But I think we do a good job covering some of the most common ones. One of which is cost, right? When principal to what we're doing here is this idea of identifying a problem that needs a solution. And when we think about solutions, and especially getting support for those solutions in the halls of power, money is always sort of an easy way for folks in power to say, oh, we can't do it because we can't afford it. It's also an intimidation factor for people who are like, I have no idea how to advocate or how to ask those that be for $1 million or to allocate X amount of money. And so one of the things we try to do is say, lots of policies, especially at the municipal level, can be crafted to not cost very much. And so sometimes that means revenue neutral, sometimes that means very low revenue, and sometimes that means money saved. Years ago, in the early days of the citizen campaign, we had some community members do some work around healthcare plans, and they were able to save millions of dollars for municipalities. Same is true here, right? So we see financials, right, as a hurdle, and we talk folks through how to get around that by crafting policies that don't cost very much. Another thing is persistence. right? We know that you go and ask once, you might get a no. You go and ask twice, you might get a no.
Yep.
And so there is a campaign style element to this, which makes the community aspect of this much more important. You can't do this alone.
Right.
You need neighbors, you need friends, you need folks in your corner who can help you. And then also, and this is part of civic life writ large, oftentimes it's a generational thing. It's going to take, this cohort of the Civic Trust may not get it done, but the next cohort of the Civic Trust might get it across the finish line. Right. And so we talk about all these things that we think folks will encounter that not only will be obstacles, but could also be discouraging to folks, whether that's the money piece, whether that's the time piece of it all.
One of the things I like about what I've observed from your career is how much time you spent in the company of and working with and for younger people.
Yeah.
Right? And specifically in this, in regard to the space that they take up in democracy and, civic engagement, et cetera.
Yeah.
And you talked about the Civic Trust, being intergenerational.
Yep.
I'm curious to hear, what are some of the things that give you confidence in young people, right now? We talked about this, countless times about how the people that we regard most highly in America, a lot of times they were 25 at the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Across, whether it's democracy, entertainment, athletics, whatever, people who have led the way in a lot of ways were not even 30.
Yep.
When you work with and see young people in Newark who are engaged, what in particular strikes you?
Yeah, I mean, again, you and I have talked about this ad nauseum already, but I say this because fundamentally in my heart I believe it to be true that every great social movement in the history of this country has been powered by young people. That has always been the case. And so there is a unique role that young people play in the heart of our democracy. And that hasn't changed.
Yeah.
I mean, we do our Wilhelmina Holder fellowship and I see it up close. I see the ideas, I see the energy. One of the things that's being talked about at a national level is you look at the state of our democracy, where are the bright spots? Where are the reasons for hope and optimism? And to me, one of the reasons for hope and optimism and one of the brightest spots in our democracy today is this national movement of lowering the voting age to 16. Laquan Allen, who's the executive director of Vote 16 USA, he's doing an amazing job of this across the country, but the biggest proof point in America right now is Newark.
Okay.
A year ago, Newark said, we're going to allow a couple thousand 16 and 17-year-olds to vote in school board elections. And it was a powerful statement to the country. And even in the Wilhelmina Holder fellowship program that we have, obviously there's spillover. So many of our young people in the program have also been involved in the Vote 16 work. And just hearing them talk about what they want to do to get more young people out, to expand it, to grow its power, is sign to me that, again, the brightest spot in our democracy right now involves young people. And we want to nourish that, we want to propel that. And also, the beautiful thing about the intergenerational trust, which is also a new aspect for my career, is seeing that energy harnessed with the wisdom of folks who have been doing this for decades and generations. And again, we've only been doing it for 10 years, and our youth fellowship is only a year old, so it's very young. But I am excited to see what this becomes year after year after year after year.
How can somebody, aside from participating in the Civic Trust, how can somebody support the citizen service?
So we have a book, Citizen Power, that is available on our website. You just go to the Citizen Service and you can order the book. Our training is online. You can go to our website, take our Citizen Power training, and it'll take you through the 10 steps of no blame problem solving. You will also be issued a certificate at the end of it.
Okay.
And the certificate is powerful. Lots of people use it on resumes.
Okay.
Because it's not just about civic life. No blame problem solving means that whether you're walking into a boardroom or some other place or school, you have this unique ability to get to the solutions and not waste time pointing blame or blaming fingers or pointing fingers. So our training online is a really powerful one. If folks want to get involved or just want to get started, I would suggest they visit our site, get one of the books, we'll ship it out to you, sign up to take our training, and think about joining a civic trust. We have civic trusts in Newark, we have a civic trust in Plainfield, we have a civic trust in Trenton. But again, civic trusts are powered by people. So if you live in a city and you want a civic trust, let us know.
Copy. Yeah. Long into the future.
Yeah.
What would you like to see changed by way of the work you're doing at the Citizen Service? And not just like line items, but culturally, what would you like to see change?
Yeah. I think for me, one of the things that has been lacking has been form and definition around what civic life is. I mean, it's something you and I and many other Newark residents talk about is when we say civic life, what do we mean by that? How do we define it? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What do the results say? And I don't know that as a country we have figured out what we mean when we say civic life. It means different things to different people.
Got you.
And I think what we are attempting to do at the Citizen Service is to define a robust civic life. Even further, we are looking to define what a civic city is. And that definition is not perfect, but we are hoping to perfect it over time. So long term for me, my goal is to get definition and form around what we mean when we say civic life, civic participation, civic cities. But two, I want to see what that means, what the implications are for neighborhoods, for communities. And I don't want to get too off track here, but I think one thing I'm very interested, that's very close to my heart, is hyperlocal citizenship. I think in the last 10 to 15 years, so much of our discourse has been about what happens in Washington, D.C. Or here in New Jersey, what happens in the capital of Trenton. And I think so much of what affects our daily lives happens at a hyperlocal level. It happens in your neighborhood, it happens in your ward, it happens in your city. And what I really appreciate about the Citizen Service is so much of what we're doing really does ignite people at a hyperlocal level. So again, over the long haul, what does it mean to teach people about the power that they have to inflict change in their communities? And what does that mean for the future of communities? More courage, more boldness, more audacity, more creativity. I think it can be really powerful if we continue to build it, push it, grow it.
Right. Thank you, man.
Thank you, brother.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you.